Welcome to our deep dive this week. And wow, there's a lot to dive into, huh? The AI world is churning like crazy lately.
Yeah, it's always moving fast, but this week feels different. Like we're seeing some real acceleration, like a wave of breakthroughs and head-scratching moments all at once.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just look at Hugging Face. 1 million models.
1 million. It's almost hard to grasp.
It really is. It's like, what does that even mean in practical terms? Like, is more always better?
Well, it does show just how fast AI is developing. Remember when having just a few powerful models was revolutionary? Now it's almost like we have too many. Specialized models for just about anything you can imagine.
And this actually reminds me of something Hugging Face's CEO, Clement Delangue, was saying, actually. He's not convinced we need to find one single all-powerful model. Did you see that?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, he specifically said we should be looking at smaller, more targeted models. He thinks those can be even more effective than trying to build some giant do-it-all AI.
Makes sense when you think about it that way.
And the interesting thing is he was saying a lot of these models aren't public. They're tools built by companies for their own specific needs. So while everyone out there is chasing the next ChatGPT, there's this whole hidden world of AI quietly changing things behind the scenes.
Kind of like a secret AI revolution happening in the background. And speaking of big changes, did you see that Google just rehired Noam Shazier?
You mean the Character.ai co-founder? What's that, $2.7 billion?
$2.7 billion with a B for
Wow.
one person.
It's hard to even imagine that much money, but it shows you how competitive this whole AI talent game is getting.
It really does.
And Shazier's no ordinary engineer, that's for sure. He was key in developing these large language models. Actually, I think I saw on his LinkedIn where he claims to have invented much of the AI revolution that's happening now.
Wow, talk about confidence. But seriously, billions for one person.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, are we headed for some kind of AI bubble? Like, remember the dot-com crash?
It's a concern for sure. A lot of investors are asking themselves that, are these huge bets on AI talent and technology really sustainable? Or is there going to be a reckoning? And actually, it makes me think about OpenAI, the ChatGPT people.
What about them?
Well, Shazier left Google because they didn't want to release his chatbot, what was it called? Masani Shine. They thought it was too risky.
Too risky out.
I think there were concerns about safety. But then, a year later, OpenAI releases ChatGPT. And now look at it. It's everywhere.
Yeah, that's going to be a little awkward for Google.
I think. But it just shows the challenge for all these companies, right? How do you innovate quickly, but also think about the responsibility of releasing something so powerful? It's not just about cool technology. It's about ethics and the impact on society.
Right. And speaking of impact, OpenAI has been in the news for their new initiative, the OpenAI Academy.
Yeah, I read about that.
They're trying to democratize AI access,
Yeah.
particularly for developers in lower-income countries.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're offering training, resources, even giving away $1 million in API credits. Seems like a good thing, right?
On the surface, sure. I mean, democratizing access to this technology is important. The question is, how effective will it really be? I mean, giving people tools and resources is great, but, there's a much bigger picture here. Like, how do you actually close the knowledge gap and make the AI world truly inclusive? And on that note, OpenAI's had some big names leave lately. Their CTO, Mira Murati, just announced she's out.
Oh, wow, I hadn't heard that.
And that's not all, right? This comes after other key people leaving, like John Schulman, who went to Anthropic. Makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes, as they're launching this whole academy thing.
Right, like what's their long-term vision and how does this all fit in? And especially when you see what a company like World Labs is doing, It's a totally different approach.
In what way?
Well, they're focused on something called spatial AI. It's basically teaching AI to understand, like, the physical world, not just data.
That's fascinating. So instead of just processing language or images, it's about understanding the relationships between things, like in 3 dimensions.
Exactly.
Wow, think about the applications for something like that. Robotics, self-driving cars, even something like augmented reality design.
Absolutely. And World Labs is led by Fei-Fei Li, who's kind of a legend in the AI world. She was a pioneer in computer vision, a professor at Stanford, and now she's spearheading this whole large world models thing, which is totally different from, say, ChatGPT, but potentially just as impactful. It's incredible, all the innovation happening. And speaking of impactful, one of the biggest things for me this week was Google DeepMind's robotics announcement.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
You have to see the videos. It's mind-blowing. They've made some huge breakthroughs in dexterity.
Dexterity, like what? Give me an example.
Like robots tying shoelaces,
Ugh.
folding laundry, even repairing each other. It's like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's real.
That's incredible, and probably a little unnerving for some people.
Maybe, but it's not just about the visuals. It's what it represents, the technology behind it. They developed these new AI systems, Aloha Unleashed and Demostart,
Mm.
which sounds super complicated, but basically they're about teaching robots to learn by watching humans.
So, like mimicking, that's how we learn.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. It's bridging that gap between human intuition and the precision of robots.
amazing.
And what's even cooler is that a lot of the training happens in simulation, so it's super efficient. They don't have to spend all the time and money on real-world trial and error.
Makes sense.
So from robots doing laundry, let's talk about AI solving cold cases. This one feels like an episode of CSI. There's this AI developed in Australia called Suse, and it's meant to help crack those really tough, unsolved crimes.
Oh, interesting. How does it work?
Well, they tested it out in England with the Avon and Somerset police, and it's pretty impressive. Like in one case, it analyzed evidence in 30 hours that would have taken human experts something like 81 years to get through.
81 years. You're kidding.
Nope. And, it really makes you wonder how many cases are out there that this technology could help solve.
That's a really good point. It speaks to the potential for AI to revolutionize so many different fields, not just the tech world.
I know. It's pretty wild to think about. But basically, it can analyze massive amounts of data, like from video and financial records, phone data, social media, you name it. And it can connect the dots, looking for patterns and things that humans might miss.
So it's like having like a digital detective working nonstop 24/7.
Exactly. Okay, shifting gears a bit here.
Yeah.
Tesla just released their full self-driving beta to Cybertruck owners.
Yes. Elon Musk's self-driving dream.
What? You don't sound convinced?
Well, let's just say Musk is known for ambitious timelines. Remember that whole thing about 1 million robotaxis by 2020?
Okay, fair enough. But this new FSD is supposed to be a major step up using this whole new software built on, get this, end-to-end AI.
Right, I read about that. Basically, it's designed to handle all of driving, from what it sees to decisions it makes, with almost no human input.
Sounds amazing, but
Yeah. But there are still big questions, right? About safety and whether it actually works all the time. Tests are showing it still needs humans to jump in sometimes, and we've all seen the stories, about autopilot accidents and such.
yeah, it's a good reality check. Even with how far it's come, self-driving's still in its early days. It makes you think about regulation, right? And ethics. How do we make sure this tech is used responsibly?
Huge questions. And speaking of which, did you see the US and UAE just put out a joint statement about AI cooperation?
Yeah, I saw that.
It seems like they really want to work together on ethical development, getting regulations aligned, and building trust globally, which is big.
It is. It makes you realize this is way bigger than just one company or one country.
Absolutely. And that's really what we try to do with these deep dives. Make sense of it all, this crazy, fast-moving AI world we talked about so much, from 1 million models to billions of dollars being thrown around, the push for access and the impact AI is already having, like with robots and even cold cases.
Don't forget self-driving trucks.
Right, of course. It's a lot to process. So as we wrap up, I'm curious what stood out most to you today, what excites you, and what worries you about the future of AI.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts. But for now, thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the world of AI. And don't forget to check our show notes for links to all the articles we talked about.
Until next time, keep learning and stay curious.